Ukraine is under fire on the battlefield and under pressure at the negotiating table. In the south, a Russian drone struck a parking lot in Zaporizhia, making civilians run for their lives and leaving charred cars in its wake, at a site already hit once before. Overnight on Saturday, Russia launched a fresh barrage of drones and missiles across Ukraine, targeting energy infrastructure and triggering widespread power outages. Ukrainian authorities say the attacks even cut off external power to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the 12th such incident since the war began, raising new fears of a potential nuclear accident. Moscow claims its forces are hitting Ukraine's military-industrial base and pressing forward on the eastern front as fighting intensifies around the Pokrovsk urban cluster. Kiev says its troops are holding key positions even as Russian pressure builds. Ukraine has dropped its NATO bid in return for Western security guarantees to end the war with Russia, President Zelensky said before talks with US envoys in Berlin. The move marks a major shift for Ukraine, which has fought to join the NATO military alliance as a safeguard against Russian attacks and as such an aspiration included in its constitution. It also meets one of Russia's war aims, although Kiev has so far held firm against ceding territory to Moscow. President Zelensky is in Berlin for high-stakes talks with US and European leaders, including President Donald Trump's envoy, as Washington pushes a peace plan that has sparked deep concern in Kiev. Zelensky says he's ready for dialogue but insists any deal must deliver a just and dignified peace for Ukraine. As drones continue to fall and negotiations begin, the question now is whether diplomacy can move faster than the war. Dr. Charles Kupchan is a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Is now joining us live from Washington. Dr. Kupchan, thank you very much for your time. President Zelensky says we are working to ensure that peace for Ukraine is dignified and to obtain guarantees. And for that, Kiev's bid to join the NATO has hit a snag. Your thoughts?
I think Zelensky's willingness to say that he's going to set aside his aim to join NATO is a significant development here. The Russians have opposed NATO enlargement from the very beginning, going back to the 1990s, and they were particularly opposed to the commitment that NATO made in 2008 to bring Ukraine in. Is this a breakthrough, a turning point? No, because there are still areas where the sides are very far apart, including what to do with that part of Donbass that is still in the control of the Ukrainians, the status of that part of Ukraine on the other side of the ceasefire line. So there is no light at the end of the tunnel yet, but this is a step forward to the outcome of a peaceful settlement.
Dr. Kupchan, Europe is worried that when the war stops, Putin will now target the whole continent. In fact, the German Chancellor likened Putin to Adolf Hitler and claimed that if Europe did not preserve the NATO alliance, then it will collapse. Your thoughts?
I think part of what you're seeing there is heated rhetoric to drum up domestic support for Ukraine and to convince Europeans to push back against an American peace plan that much of Europe sees to be insufficient, inadequate when it comes to Ukraine and stopping Russian aggression. I also think that the terms of the peace deal are critical here, in the sense that if there is to be a negotiated endgame, Ukraine does need assurance that Russia is not simply going to keep coming, wait a year, and then try to take more of Ukraine. And that's why this debate about security guarantees and about how to ensure that that part of Ukraine that is not occupied by Russia can defend itself is a critical element of the negotiations that are taking place in Berlin.
Dr. Charles Kupchan, will have to end it there. Thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Bye-bye.